Hey, my name is Shadowsense, and you're watching Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York. So, we just met Juno with Agathon at the nightclub where we were embraced. Or we met the woman who would embrace us and turn me into a vampire. So, we have half the night. I'm trying to decide who I want to hang out with. Could investigate someone watching me. We could go back to the cathedral for more of the faith stuff. There's a nosy reporter outside Sophie's Haven. You know what? It might be good to check this out. Yeah, it might be good to check this out, so. The street lights flitter into the apartment in a stark white glow as if someone were shooting a movie outside. The art pieces display a tasteful expense entirely fitting the image you have of Sophie. It feels as if 1,000 sins have been committed on these premises, most of them under her benevolent hospitality. Sophie comes to greet you as you enter the living room, shaking her head. You understand that people judge me based on how you dress, don't you? Sophie looks at your clothes as if resigned to your sartorial limitations. I've tried to dress inconspicuously because of the masquerade. That's very sensible of you. I suppose I should commend you for that. Sophie walks to the window and looks out, the streetlights playing on her features. She reminds you of a queen contemplating the unfortunate limitations of her subjects. You'd think that as a vampire, at least we wouldn't have to worry about the vultures of the press. Unfortunately, when you have the power and abilities, there are always parasites trying to feed on you. Is there a reporter after you? Yes, a terribly persistent creature. Sophie steps away from the window and settles down on a sofa, a wine glass with red liquid in it. Blood treated as not to spoil. You've become good at noticing the scent even from a distance. She doesn't offer you any as you cautiously sit down across from her. This awful man has been stalking my apartment with a camera. He's gone through my trash, talked to the neighbors. Please be a dear and explain to him that there's nothing for him here. Is this about the masquerade? That's a big deal for us, right? Indeed, you're learning. This must happen often. How do you usually deal with it? Everyone has their own way. Sometimes the problem goes away with a bit of money or sharp words. Other times you need something more. Do I get something out of this, or am I just your servant? You get to enjoy my protection. Time for you to go. I have business to attend to. You leave the apartment as Sophie disappears into another room. You don't have a clear idea of what the games she plays with the city's mortal and immortal power structures, but she always seems to be making a move. Outside on the street, there's a slight warm drizzle, the kind that gets under your clothes and makes you want to take a shower when you get back to your own haven. No reporters immediately jump out to you. I'm going to investigate. You start with the basics of investigative work. You ask the proprietor of the bodega around the corner, the homeless man sleeping in a nearby doorway, and the doorman of another building whether they've seen anyone strange. Detective work produces results. You get the description of a man who sounds like a reporter. Older, overweight, pasty, and in bad physical condition. Professional camera. Once you know what you're looking for, it's not difficult. You spot a man who matches the description and follow him. You enter an alley, a dark, dingy space between two tall buildings. Once upon a time, a place like this might have worried you, made you think of muggings and violence. Now it's clear that the most dangerous thing here is you. The man you are following seems to realize this too. He holds his camera in front of him like a shield, its heavy objective resting on its paunch. With a start, you recognize him. You remember the face, the shaded sunglasses from a picture next to a byline in some trashy paper you were reading to kill time. Something about celebrities, scandal, sex. His name is Frank Doherty. You saw him on the street one time with a camera outside a nightclub, probably waiting for someone important to come out so he could take their picture. Hey, don't go around scaring people like that. You're Frank Doherty! I recognize you from that thing. You're a fake reporter, right? I'm a real reporter, damn it. Lot of scoops here in the dirty alley? You can't be a journalist if you're not willing to get your hands dirty. Do you live here? We're working on a story about a local resident. Her name is Sophie Langley. Everybody knows her in high society circles. She's a redhead, pretty as a picture. There are a lot of pictures of her through the years. That's the thing, in fact. Look at this. Frank pulls out his phone and starts showing you pictures. Some have been downloaded from news sites, while others are photos from the society pages of newspapers from past decades. All show Sophie. She has different clothes, hairstyles, makeup, names, but the face remains the same. I'm doing that one. They're all hot. Other than that, I'm not sure. Come on, look at the face. It's always the same. So why does this matter? Maybe it doesn't, but people are always interested in saying young. 3 words. Extreme plastic surgery. All the celebrities do it. Only her doctor is better than the rest. You look critically at the photos on Frank's phone. Sure, I guess. If you find who the surgeon is, let me know. I could have some work done. You're right. It makes no sense. Damn. So how would you explain it? Have you considered the possibility that those pictures are a hoax? Sure, anything could be a hoax, but I dug up those old papers from the archives myself. I gotta have something usable. I'm gonna intimidate. The powers of the blood make kindred fearsome killers. Looking at Frank, you decide that you can administer this beatdown without help from your undead nature. Nothing personal, friend. BAM! Just fucking socked him right in the mouth. You punch Frank in the mouth. Perhaps the most important thing about your new vampiric existence is getting used to violence. You have to hunt, defend yourself. Frank falls down on one knee. This is not defending herself. Please, don't! You smack Frank across the face. You feel his perspiration sticking to your skin. Blood wells from his mouth and you have a sudden urge to bite down and drink. Sophie probably wouldn't appreciate a corpse in the alley next to her home, so you restrain yourself. Frank is on all fours on the wet ground. You pick up his camera and casually fling it into a wall. The telephoto lens breaks off. Oh my god, please don't! Stay away, and this won't happen again. Run. Frank staggers upright and runs out of the alley as best as he's able, leaving his ruined camera behind. You look after his receding figure, wondering if he'll have the courage to return. Well, that was fucking intense. Do I have enough time in this, like, little wedge to do something? I'm gonna Google this real quick. I'm just gonna... Okay, it said you only have time for, like, one main thing per night. So, I'm gonna go ahead and rest up. Kadir Al-Azmai, the sheriff of New York City, is knocking at the door to your haven. The sight comes as more than a little shocking. If he had business with you, you'd either expect to see him already inside or never see him coming at all. Yet there he is, on the other side of the peephole, patiently and politely waiting for you to let him in. You carefully unlock the door and face him in silence. Evening. May I come in? You simply stare at him. Your lack of an answer doesn't faze him, and your lack of resistance as he starts walking inside has obviously been interpreted as a permission. Once inside, he starts looking around as you cautiously stay by the door. Haven't really had the time to make this place your own yet, have you? Feels like Langley's apartment through and through. A secluded study where nobody studies anything. Look at the books on this shelf, obviously meant to impress guests, not to be read. They reveal nothing about their owner, aside from the aching desire to be taken seriously as an intellectual. He picks one of them up and smirks before putting it away. And the phenomenology of spirit next to all this garbage poetry. We can make a bet. If she's read more than 20 pages, I owe you $50 and a gallon of blood. The kind of place that the self-professed hermits entomb themselves in to suffer. Considering how much you have to run around these nights, you probably only use it to shelter from the sun and rest, right? Even though he's obviously making an effort to come off as non-threatening, it's impossible to forget the first impression he made. You still see him as a fierce predator, trying hard not to expose his true colors. You sense a familiar fight-or-flight response as you struggle to find a diplomatic answer to his last question. If Kadir is bothered by your silence, he doesn't let it show. He keeps walking around, toying with whatever catches his eye. Eventually, he speaks up again. Watch any baseball lately? If I had to guess, you strike me as a Red Sox fan. Now he's inviting you to talk in a more direct manner. You attempt to overcome your physical reaction to him and reply as casually as you can. The choice is no choice here. Your mind keeps going back to that night when everything was changed forever. Waking up in hell with a body next to you, spending a night in that underground sweat box, unsure of what will happen next, the endless car ride, 3 strikes, a bloodthirsty crowd, that blade. A rebirth, a baptism by fire, a frightening executor who made sure the flames scarred your spirit. As you look into his face, you realize he's read the emotions from yours. Not in the mood to exchange pleasantries, There's no animosity in his voice, he's just stating a fact. Let me get straight to the point then. He momentarily stops caring about his surroundings, turning all of his attention to you, and demanding the entirety of your attention in return. You see, there's something that I've realized over the years. In a large part, I may have been hired just to look menacing with a sword, but my job is all about seeing through bonds and relationships. The Camarilla would be safe as long as its members adhere to certain social contracts, making their dealings and affinities plain for everyone to see. But that obviously remains a pipe dream. This is a community of born conspirators, overly ambitious gangsters and politicians, monsters in denial, all sorts of tragically broken individuals. They are driven by desires that make them incompatible with the Masquerade, incompatible with prolonged survival of the Camarilla, incompatible with the methods I use to operate. And so, I'm doomed to be like a cop, constantly insulted behind my back, maybe for a good reason, but immediately called for help whenever someone loses their tableware. Or like an Agatha Christie protagonist, outwardly assisted by everyone but constantly lied to about everyone's pasts and motivations, even if my failure to solve the mystery might be the end of us all. He tries to sound like he's peacefully resigned to his fate, but it's easy to detect a tinge of regret in his voice, a voice belonging to someone who once had bigger ambitions than this. What broke him? So you see, for this detective, the why done it is far more important than who done it or how done it. When you understand all the players and their mutual obligations, you easily understand every crime. But of course, the kindred know it, so they devise ways to make my job much harder, just like conspiracies between 2 unrelated actors that depend on scratching each other's backs for mutual security. Or they enforce a blood bond to make someone unexpected their thrall. A boss serving their employee, a rebel serving a tyrant, just because one is regularly being forced to drink another's blood. What has Sophie seen in you? Why does the prince keep asking me about your actions? How come you're being pushed to build your own coteries so fast? You are surrounded by unclear motivations which you yourself don't understand. That unnerves me, and it should unnerve you as well. Oh? And what are your motivations, Kadir? Finally, you manage to raise your voice. Kadir notices the effort and smiles softly. So you haven't gone mute since the last time I saw you. Good. Well, I'm here for a selfish reason. I need to develop a rapport with you to better fulfill my obligations. The last time we met, I couldn't see you as my equal. Now that you've been accepted into the Camarilla, what choice do I have? I'd understand if you didn't want to see my face again, but I'm one of the faces of the New York City community, and as long as you're a part of it, it's going to be impossible to avoid me. Especially when I have business with you, as I do. As you might have guessed by now, one of my tasks is uncovering and understanding your bonds, and one of them might endanger our community. Well, that's not menacing at all. Who is he talking about? When we went with D'Angelo, we met with, Robert, what's his face? The Robert Smith, the Cure looking ass motherfucker. The thin blood primogen. Someone from my coterie? You mean someone I'm trying to recruit into my coterie? Kadir shakes his head. I'm monitoring them and they know it. If they're breaking the rules, they're doing it the right way, meaning I haven't learned about it yet. Unless you might want to share something. Moment of awkward silence. Joking. Mostly. He produces a file from underneath his coat and passes it to you. This is our troublemaker. You open the file and see some printed photos. You freeze up as you recognize the face and are overwhelmed by a flood of repressed memories. That's right, she's still alive. I forgot about that. I forgot about my ex. Jessica Lowell, the woman who made the last few years of your life heaven and the last few weeks a living hell. Since she took pretty much everyone you knew with her after the split, and you thought the transition to this life would be painless. No baggage at all. Have you thought wrong? You look up at Kadir expecting answers. There are some unfortunate rumors that you committed suicide after a messy breakup. So apparently Miss Jessica here is desperately mobilizing everyone she knows to look for you. Turns out she's contacted a lot of people who might recognize you, including some in law enforcement agencies. The risk of endangering us is relatively low, but far from non-existent. Which means she must be stopped. Must be stopped sounds threatening. You dread thinking about what he's planning. I'll arrange for you to meet tomorrow so that you can straighten the situation out and say goodbye to the life you've forsaken. He'll arrange what? Your eyes must look like saucers right now. Usually these matters are left to my discretion, and I can't think of an easier solution. The lost sheep reappears, takes care of the unfinished business, and disappears never to be seen again. Nobody cares. It's simple, it's clean, no contrived schemes, no unnecessary victims, and it gives me an opportunity to learn more about you as I observe. When neonates interact with kind they used to hold dear, their true natures are laid bare for everyone to see. Of course he's invested in being kind to you, or he's making clear his self-serving intentions so that you don't start figuring them out yourself. Any objections? Any alternatives are probably worse. You shake your head. Very well. I'll arrange a meeting and drive you there tomorrow. Better come up with a load of bold that's easy to swallow. He disappears from the apartment, leaving you as confused as the last time he closed the door on you. God damn it. You need to think it through. For a long time, you just sit in your haven, lost in your thoughts, remembering how you once thought your world has ended with her leaving. Whining, sure, but seems like it was prescient whining. Well, fuck. Can't kill my ex, that would be bad, so... Gotta come up with something, that's... You know what? God, there's so much I want to do, but not much time to do it. I'm gonna go hang out with TAMIKA. Upon returning to your haven, you find a small scrap of paper lying on your windowsill. Need a favor? If you're still up for it, come meet me in Prospect. Tam. Once again, you cross the gate of Prospect Park and head straight for where you last saw the feral duo. Minutes pass. Finding no sign of TAMIKA, you begin to worry that something might have happened to her. Suddenly, you hear the rustling coming around from nearby bushes, and it's not the stray cat kind of rustling either. TAMIKA? The rustling stops, if only for a second. Suddenly, the bushes part and Raoul walks out, desperately trying to look confident. You wish? Listen, I wanted to have a word before Tam gets here. She seems to like you for whatever strange reason, but the way I see it, you're a nuisance at best. At worst, you're a threat. I get it. You don't like me. Forgive me if I don't lose any sleep over it. You should be, because when I don't like someone, I do something about it, and it's usually not pleasant. TAMIKA is my sister in every sense of the word that counts. Anything happens to her and I find even remotely your fault, I'm coming after you. Is that clear? TAMIKA seems pretty capable. Don't think she needs you babysitting her. Oh, she's plenty capable. Given the opportunity, she'll rip your guts out if you cross her. What I'm saying is, if anything happens to TAMIKA, I'm holding you accountable. All of a sudden, the sound of footsteps reaches your ears. It's just faint enough to not be ostentatious, but still loud enough to hear. You can tell that whoever's approaching wants to make their presence known. Both you and Raoul turn just in time to see TAMIKA emerge from behind an old sycamore tree. It's hard to tell just how long she's been listening in on your conversation. In any case, she walks up and speaks, addressing no one in particular. Did I miss anything? Your brother's being a butthole. Not much, just your brother being a giant asshole. So what else is new? Raoul gives TAMIKA the kind of indecipherable look that only happens between siblings. You honestly can't tell if they're able to hug or start clawing each other's eyes out. I'm going. Try not to get killed because of this dipshit. Do my best. And with that, Raoul takes his leave. TAMIKA waits in silence, just long enough to make sure he can no longer hear her, and addresses you. I have a favor to ask. Sure, anything. She raises an eyebrow. Anything, huh? Careful, I may keep you to that. Just a turn of phrase. Right. I have an errand to run. I was hoping you'd come with me. There's a place east of here. It's a short walk. We should be back in 2, maybe 3 hours. Wait, we're walking? As in on foot? In New York City? I don't like cars, alright? They remind me of old times before I became this. It can be distracting. So, can we go? Yeah, sure. You're being awfully mysterious. Can you just tell me what this is about? It's a private matter. I'll explain later. It's nothing shady, I promise. And so you head toward the parking lot, accompanied by TAMIKA and a lot of unanswered questions. Following TAMIKA's directions, you finally arrive at the Evergreen Cemetery, one of the oldest burying grounds in Brooklyn. You enter through the southwestern gate and follow your companion through the sea of tombstones. It's a nice enough place as far as graveyards go, much less homogenized than the usual flat field littered with identical markers. TAMIKA confidently presses on, swerving and weaving along the program path. It's clear that she's been here more than a few times. Finally, she makes a sharp left, takes a few more steps down a gravel walkway, coming to a sudden stop in front of a modest headstone. The inscription reads, Luca Santiago, beloved sister and daughter, born 1991, taken from us too soon. With her eyes fixed on the gravesite, she lets out an absent-minded utterance. I need a moment alone. Not long, 5 minutes at most. You look around in search of a good spot to wait for her and pass the time. At the far end of the nearby lawn, you notice a lone bench situated under a weeping willow. Suddenly, you hear voices, distant but slowly approaching. Judging by the tone and timbre, you're guessing it's a couple of teenagers out to get their late-night kicks among the dearly departed. Yeah, I did that same edgy shit too as a teen. I would go on nighttime walks through cemeteries. Never found anything spooky, much to my chagrin. I would have loved to see like a spirit or even just like, I know they're not like, concrete, but like, orbs. I would have liked to see that, but didn't see anything creepy, unfortunately. One of these days I will, though. Maybe. Might be a good chance to feed. Then again, you could just pass the time walking around the area. It's actually quite nice, in a dark and somber kind of way. I'm gonna take a feeding opportunity. Take your time. Think I'll go grab myself a drink. Just do it quietly. I don't want any trouble. Not here. You leave TAMIKA alone and follow the voices. Soon enough, you come upon a couple in their late teens. Judging by the thick eyeliner in their clothes, consisting of mostly black leather and lace, you'd venture a guess that they love nothing more than to meet an actual vampire. You're happy to oblige. As you emerge from the shadows, you can feel your all intensify. What the fuck does that mean? The boy and girl watch you, completely awestruck, waiting for you to approach. The slightest gesture is enough to shoo the boy away. He sits on a nearby bench and watches, completely enamored, as your lips press against the girl's neck. It's a weird sensation to feel actual, honest-to-God pride in a victim's blood, but here you are. She's glad to have been chosen in this way. You decide that there's no good reason to discriminate, and also take a sip from the guy. His BO is pretty terrible, but the taste of his blood isn't half bad. Hoping the teens' post-kiss days will make your face just an impression in their memory, you leave them on the bench just as they let out their excited hormones, run wild, and start making out furiously. You half expect Kadir to materialize, sword in hand, to deal with these loose ends, or with you for leaving them to roam like you did. You'll need to be more careful in the future. Finally, you get back to the tree and find TAMIKA sitting on the bench. Without a word, you sit next to her. You look over to her, doing your best not to stare. She looks down, crossing her arms and putting her hands on her shoulders. In an instant, the ferocious savage disappears, replaced by a vulnerable young woman. I think I'm done. You okay? I'm better now. Sorry, I guess I should tell you what that was about. She looks away. You can tell she's struggling to open up to you, so you remain silent, trying not to make her uncomfortable. I was embraced not far from here, in this cemetery. A fitting spot, I suppose. This was close to a decade ago. I'd been on the road for a couple of years at that point, hitchhiking from one town to another. New York was just supposed to be another stop. Then I met Jezebel. She was strong, smart, independent. Seemed like someone I could trust, someone I could get close to. She never made me feel inadequate or ashamed, and she could hold her own in a fistfight too. Funny thing though, she only wanted to meet during nighttime. I didn't think much of it, even came up with excuses for her. Busy, eccentric, whatever worked. Until one night she sank her teeth into my neck. Keep using the past tense. I take it she's no longer around? She's not dead, if that's what you're asking. At least, not that I know of. She left soon after turning me. I think the conclave of Prague really shook her up. Wait, the conclave of what now? Prague. It's a city in Central Europe. It was supposed to be the neutral ground. A good place to discuss politics and strategy. It ended up almost turning into a civil war. Next thing you know, the anarchs were expunged from the Camarilla. All they had done for our kind, the blood they spilled, didn't amount to a thing. Can't blame Jezebel for feeling betrayed. But yeah, even though I sided Raoul and Luca, I was still furious and terrified. Luca died a few years later. Operation Lights Out, they called it. It was a coordinated assault by the Second Inquisition. A genocide by any other name. Her family got together, brought up a plot, and buried an empty casket. Guess they wanted some closure. Can't fault them for that. Even though she's not really here, I like to come and visit from time to time. It reminds me of who I am. Keeps me in check. Keeps the beast at bay. Also, this being the place of my embrace, you have to appreciate that level of irony. She straightens up and looks at you as if something had just occurred to her. Sorry, I don't know what came over me. One minute I'm all grunts and stares, the next I'm giving you my biography. I guess I'm just tired of being scared. Alone. You don't have to be alone. I used to think so, but those were simpler times. At this point, I'm just looking for something to believe in. Someone I can give a damn about. Yeah, you have your brother. Can you romance people in this game? I didn't know it was like that. If it is. Uh-oh. You have Raoul? You'll always have Raoul. She smiles sadly. Will I? Don't get me wrong. Raoul is my brother. The bond between us is not easily broken. But he's got ideas and ambitions of his own. He won't always be there to watch my back. I can't expect that of him. You open your mouth, but before you can make a sound, Tamika motions at you to keep quiet. She lifts her head and sniffs at the air. Her ears perk up and her eyes widen. Suddenly, she pushes you with all of her strength, sending you flying off the bench. Before you even hit the ground, an immense shape flies into view and smashes down onto the bench, splintering it into pieces. With the blood surging through your veins, you pounce onto your feet. You look at the massive fur and muscles that just nearly pulverize you. The creature rears its head and gives you a deranged stare. It then turns to me. Is this a fucking werewolf? Is this a fucking Garu? That's what... Okay, so there's another game called Werewolf the Apocalypse. There's an entire... It's called The World of Darkness, alright? If you're not familiar. And Werewolf the Apocalypse, the werewolves are called Garu. Just like the vampires and Vampire the Masquerade are called kindred. It's all interconnected. There's also wraiths, hunters, demons. It's all... It's a lot to take in. Then turns to Tamika. She seems utterly terrified, frozen in place, as if she literally just saw a ghost. You notice the creature shift its weight, as if preparing to pounce. Wait, no, this is Luca. Luca's a fucking werewolf. Before the monster can attack Tamika, you let out a savage yell, drawing its attention to you. Before you know it, you're lying on your back, feeling as if someone just dropped a 16-ton weight on your chest. The smell of wet fur fills your nostrils. It takes a second for the pain to register, but when it does, oh boy. Your screams echo off the surrounding tombstones. It's unlikely they have awoken the dead, but a few might have stirred in their slumber. Suddenly, the beast, still crouched on top of you, lets out a pained roar. In a flash of consciousness, you see Tamika hunched atop the monster's shoulders, her eyes plunged into its eye sockets. Floundering like a fish out of water, the monster finally manages to shake the feral Valkyrie off its back. The creature then turns towards you. For a second or two, it moves its mouth awkwardly, as if trying to remember how to form words. Stay out my ground. Okay, probably not Luke then. This is a dude. The creature runs off towards a nearby clearing when all of a sudden a gunshot sends it tumbling onto the ground. A group of well-armed men in body armor emerge from the shadows in an orderly formation, moving closer around the creature. We gotta fucking go. Not sure what to make of what's happening, you figure it's best to get out of sight. As you start backing away into the nearby bushes, you notice Tamika following your lead. From the relative safety of the thick foliage, you watch in silence as a group of armed men subdue the creature using steel nets and cattle prods. In the corner of your eye, you catch Tamika looking away, as if she finds this whole spectacle somehow distasteful. She speaks under her breath, her voice shaking. Can we get out of here? You see no reason to object. The walk back turns out to be a quiet and somber experience. You both walk in silence, the city a blur of lights and cars careening by. You look over to Tamika. She seems lost in her thoughts. Finally, you decide to break the silence. What the hell was that back there? A werewolf? No. If it were, we probably wouldn't be talking right now. Probably just a Gangrel shapeshifted then. Still, in a way, that might have been preferable. She rubs her temples, trying to collect her thoughts. Among those of my clan, we tell stories about the Scarred One. The Scarred One? It's the only name he's known by. He's a cautionary tale for young Gangrel. He's what happens when you let the beast take over. I always figured him to be more of a metaphor. Seeing him in real life, it's like if a Christian just happened to run into Judas Iscariot one day. And seeing him hunted down by the SI, I don't know what to think. I don't even know where to start thinking. Deciding to give her some space, you spend the rest of the walk in silence. Soon enough, the familiar tree line of Prospect Park comes into view. Stop by the entrance nearest Tamika's haven. She keeps walking without so much as a word or glance in your direction. She stops after several paces and turns back towards you. I'm sorry. Thank you for coming with me, but now I have a lot of shit to figure out. Once I do, I'll let you know. And with that, she disappears among the trees. Seeing no point in sticking around, you take your leave. Well, that was fucking intense. Not a werewolf, but a Gangrel in beast form, which is still just as cool, I think. Oh man, that was intense. That was really fun too. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave that episode there. So thank you guys so very much for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this one, please consider subscribing. And until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.